imagine for a second, right, that you just hit a wall in your daily life.
Like a total fundamental breakdown.
Exactly. The systems you've always used to, keep your job on track or manage your relationships or even just organize your own thoughts, they've completely collapsed.
Yeah, and you realize it's not just burnout.
Right. You realize you need clinical help. So you take that incredibly difficult step, you ask for help, you sit in the doctor's office, and you are told that, yes, you can be assessed, but the wait list could be up to a decade long.
A decade. It's unfathomable.
You might not see a specialist until 2036. What do you even do in the meantime?
I mean, it creates this almost paralyzing vacuum. You're basically told, yes, your struggle is completely real, but the infrastructure to actually address it, it just doesn't exist for you right now.
Which is exactly what we're getting into today. Welcome to this deep dive. Today we are looking at the modern reality of navigating attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD.
And it really is a reality check.
Yeah, it is. We're looking at this profound systemic failure in care, but, more importantly, we're exploring the really fascinating organic ways the individuals are stepping into that massive gap.
Right, the workarounds.
Exactly. We've got data from the NHS ADHD Task Force, medical articles from Young Minds and Medical News Today, insights from local charities like ADHD Adult UK and Hyperfocused, and this brand new psychiatric study from Frontiers in Psychiatry.
And the overarching theme from all these sources is a total shift in where actual intervention is happening.
Yeah.
I mean, ADHD is obviously a strict clinical diagnosis, right? It requires medical professionals. But the most immediate life raft treatments that are keeping people afloat, they aren't coming from hospitals. They are being built by the patients themselves.
It's incredible. But, okay, to understand how these crowdsourced communities actually function, we kind of have to look at the pressure cooker that forced them into existence.
Absolutely.
And we're dealing with an audience today that, understands the neurodevelopmental baseline of ADHD. We don't need to define the basic types, but our sources do highlight some really crucial nuances in how it presents in the real world, which complicates this whole diagnostic backlog.
Yeah, especially the internalized presentation, particularly in women.
Right.
That is a massive factor in the current bottleneck. Because for decades, the diagnostic criteria, it leaned really heavily toward externalized hyperactive behavior.
Like the classic disruptive young boy in a classroom.
Exactly. But what we're seeing deeply reflected in this current surge of adults seeking help is the internalized experience.
Which looks totally different.
Totally different. It manifests as this chronic inability to relax, or constantly spacing out during complex conversations, or finding just mundane, everyday decisions completely paralyzing because of executive dysfunction.
And Medical News Today specifically points out that the teenage years can be the absolute hardest age to navigate these symptoms.
Oh, without a doubt.
Because, the social and academic demands suddenly skyrocket, right as the hormonal changes of puberty hit. The cognitive load just becomes unbearable.
Which collides directly with the clinical crisis we're seeing. Back in March 2024, Professor Anita Thapar launched the NHS England Task Force specifically to address this.
And the data they're grappling with is just staggering.
It's unprecedented. There's this massive spike in referrals across all age groups, but the system is it's entirely unequipped to map it. The NHS frankly lacks the legacy tracking systems and reliable data to even quantify the wait list nationally.
It's a completely fragmented data landscape.
Yeah, and then you compound all of that with severe global shortages of ADHD medication.
Right. And to put a human face on that, there's a report from HealthWatch Stockton-on-Tees that I found just incredibly sobering. They shared the story of a woman named Larissa who's caught right in this crossfire.
Right, dealing with those localized wait times.
Yeah, stretching up to 10 years. But the report reveals that the time itself isn't even the worst part. It's the total blackout of communication.
The psychological toll of the void?
Exactly. 64% of the people surveyed weren't even told how long their wait would be.
Right.
55% received zero information at the point of referral. They asked for help and were handed a blank sheet of paper.
That's just wild.
And to escalate the stress even more, some GPs are refusing to accept shared care agreements or private diagnoses for prescriptions. So even if you spend your own savings to bypass the decade-long wait, you can still end up medically stranded.
The cognitive dissonance there is it's profound. You have an individual with a neurodevelopmental difference that fundamentally impairs their ability to organize, plan, and regulate frustration, right?
Yeah.
And the medical system's response is this highly bureaucratic, chaotic maze. It requires peak executive function simply to stay on the wait list for an executive function disorder.
That's such a good point. I kept thinking of an analogy while reading through this. It's like being stranded at a chaotic airport where all the flights are grounded.
Oh, that's perfect.
Like, there's no info on the departure board, no staff at the help desk, and you're just sitting on your luggage in the terminal for years. You can't leave, but you can't fly either.
And while you're sitting there completely stuck, society is constantly pushing this narrative that ADHD is actually a superpower.
Yes. The toxic positivity around neurodivergence.
It's become a massive point of friction.
There is this really poignant quote in the local feedback from a user who just fiercely rejected that superpower label. They said it provides cover for the systemic failure.
Right, because it minimizes the struggle.
Exactly, and minimizes their daily agonizing struggle just to function. They said if they have any superpower at all, it feels like the power of invisibility.
Wow, that phrase alone is a powerful indictment of the system. And it really encapsulates why this topic matters to you, the listener.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because whether you are actively navigating the healthcare system, whether you're neurodivergent yourself, or maybe you're managing a team and want to support a colleague, you have to understand the reality of that grounded airport terminal.
Right, because recognizing that void is the only way to understand why grassroots community action is suddenly becoming the primary healthcare intervention.
Exactly. Because when the medical waiting room is full, people don't just sit in silence.
They start talking to the person in the chair next to them.
Yeah. And what the sources show is that these individuals have essentially mapped out an entirely new parallel support landscape. They've built crowdsourced clinics.
The scale of it is fascinating. Like, if you look at organizations like the Attention Deficit Disorder Association, ADDA,
Right.
they aren't just offering a generic one-size-fits-all group. They've engineered these virtual programs tailored for incredibly specific demographics. Groups exclusively for women over 50, for high IQ individuals, for the LGBTQIA plus community, Black people, entrepreneurs.
And you see the exact same thing at the grassroots level. Organizations like Hyperfocused are running Facebook groups that are hyperlocal, like ADHD dads in Nottingham.
Or ADHD moms in Stoke-on-Trent. But, okay, I do want to push back on this a little bit. Is there a danger of getting too siloed? Like, if you fracture the community into 100 tiny subgroups, don't you dilute the collective power? Why not just one massive, unified umbrella group?
Well, you might think a broader network offers more resources, but hyperspecificity solves a very real cognitive problem. It removes the friction of establishing a baseline.
What do you mean by that?
So think about a 50-year-old woman navigating the hormonal shifts of menopause alongside ADHD. She is dealing with vastly different chemical and societal hurdles than, say, a teenage boy trying to survive high school.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
In a hyperspecific group, participants don't have to spend the first 20 minutes of an interaction explaining their life stage or justifying their context.
They can just bypass the preamble.
Exactly. They jump straight into actionable shared experience.
That makes a lot of sense. It's an efficiency mechanism for people who are already exhausted. And it's not just emotional validation either. These groups are highly practical. Like charities such as ADHD Adult UK, which is crucially run by adults with ADHD for adults with ADHD. They're providing administrative tools that the medical system just completely ignores.
They are essentially providing bureaucratic prosthetics.
That is a great way to put it. They offer these downloadable appeal letters for parking fines and debt collection. Because, time blindness isn't just a quirky trait. It means missing payment deadlines and watching late fees spiral.
Right.
And they offer personalized template letters to give to universities or employers, requesting reasonable adjustments, things like a separate room for exams or flexible hours.
Which creates this fascinating irony when you look back at the NHS task force.
Oh, how so?
Well, one of Professor Thapar's stated goals for the task force is to figure out how to provide support without a diagnosis.
Really?
Yeah. Things like coaching, psychoeducation, classroom tools for the people stuck on that 10-year wait list. Yet these grassroots peer groups have already engineered and deployed this exact model.
They're already doing it.
Right. They are actively executing the NHS's goal while the NHS is still trying to form a committee to study it.
That is wild. So we know these groups exist, and we know they're providing these vital tools. But I really want to dig into the psychological mechanics of this. Like, what is actually happening to a person's brain when they engage with these online communities?
The science behind scrolling for support, basically.
Exactly. Let's look at the hard data.
Well, there's a brand new qualitative study published in Frontiers in Psychiatry that gives us an incredible window into this. They analyzed adult ADHD Facebook groups to understand the therapeutic mechanisms at play.
And they categorize the support into 3 pillars, right?
Yes, 3 distinct pillars, but it's how they interact that's really the intervention. The first is informational support. This acts as a real-time, crowdsourced strategy network.
So, like, if a patient is hit by the medication shortage, they aren't waiting for a letter from their doctor.
No, they're posting in their local group asking which specific pharmacies within a 10-mile radius actually have stock today. Or they're crowdsourcing highly specific apps designed to bypass executive dysfunction.
It's literally a hive mind of operational life hacks.
Exactly. Then the study highlights the emotional support aspect, which goes way deeper than just cheering each other on.
Right.
The researchers found that active participation fundamentally alters a person's internal monologue. It fosters self-compassion and actively reduces self-criticism.
Because you're reading a post from someone experiencing the exact same bizarre struggle you had that morning. Like, I don't know, being unable to start the dishwasher because the sponges are the wrong texture.
Yes, it completely normalizes the feeling of being an outsider. And that normalization feeds directly into the third pillar, social support.
Because neurodivergence can be so isolating.
Profoundly isolating. And these spaces reduce that deep-seated loneliness by proving the individual's lived experience is not an anomaly. But, the most revelatory finding in the entire Frontier study, it actually flips our traditional understanding of support groups completely upside down.
I know exactly what you're going to say, and it really changes the entire paradigm. I always assumed these groups were full of people desperate to receive help.
Right. That's the assumption.
But the study implies that the primary coping mechanism, like the actual therapeutic driver for a lot of users, is the act of giving help. How does offering advice to a stranger act as therapy for the person giving it?
It's a brilliant psychological mechanism. Think
Right.
about it. When an individual with ADHD spends their day feeling overwhelmed, disorganized, maybe failing to meet societal expectations, their sense of agency is just battered.
Absolutely.
But then they log into a group, they see a question they actually know the answer to, and they provide actionable advice to someone else in distress. It instantly restores their sense of capability. The act of giving reinforces their own purpose and meaning. They become the expert of their own lived experience, which completely counteracts the helplessness they feel facing the medical system.
I find that reclamation of agency incredibly beautiful. But, okay, I have to push back hard on the medium being used here.
Let's hear it.
We're talking about Facebook. Social media algorithms are explicitly designed to hijack human attention, induce outrage, and keep you endlessly scrolling. Taking someone with an attention deficit and dropping them into a Facebook group seems incredibly counterproductive.
It seems like putting out a fire with gasoline, right?
Exactly. How can a platform built on distraction act as a therapeutic sanctuary?
It's a highly valid concern. On the surface, it seems totally contradictory. But the research uncovers this fascinating paradox about communication for neurodivergent minds. You have to consider the massive cognitive load of real-world face-to-face interaction.
Because it's a lot to process.
Right. In a physical conversation, someone with ADHD has to constantly modulate their tone, force appropriate eye contact, suppress impulsivity so they don't interrupt, and process audio information in real time.
It's essentially performing this highly complex social script while trying to actually listen to what the other person is saying.
Precisely. It can be exhausting. But text-based asynchronous platforms completely eliminate that real-time pressure.
Oh, I do.
A Facebook group acts as a buffered safe space. A user can read a post, walk away from their phone, process the emotional weight of it at their own pace, and then draft a response an hour later without any of the immediate social pressures of an in-person encounter.
So the text interface actually lowers the barrier to entry for empathy.
Yes, it bypasses the real-world social hurdles.
And the study makes a point to note that active engagement, actually drafting those comments and sharing experiences, enhances the therapeutic effect far more than just passively lurking.
Because active participation forces cognitive processing and solidifies that shared identity. Passive lurking can sometimes just evolve into another form of doom scrolling.
Which brings us to a really practical dilemma. The science says these groups can be highly effective, but the internet is still the internet. Unmoderated spaces can quickly become echo chambers of negativity.
Oh, absolutely.
So how do you navigate this landscape and actually find a group that serves as a crowdsourced clinic rather than just a digital complaint box?
For that, we turn to ADHD coach Jacqueline Sinfield. In her work, Untapped Brilliance, she offers a highly pragmatic guide for evaluating these spaces. And it starts with a crucial distinction between two fundamentally different types of groups.
She draws a hard line between a healing environment and what she calls a good mom group.
And recognizing the difference is vital for your mental health. A healing group is solution-oriented. It acknowledges the struggle but focuses on shared strategies, emotional regulation, moving forward.
Right.
A good moan group, on the other hand, is entirely circular. People show up simply to complain week after week, reinforcing their identity around their problems.
And if you spend an hour in one of those, you just absorb that ambient anxiety. You leave feeling drained, unsettled, and lower than when you arrived.
Exactly. It requires a total shift in how we approach seeking help.
I feel like finding a support group isn't like getting a standardized medical treatment where every pill is exactly the same. It's more like dating, or maybe trying on shoes.
I like the shoes analogy.
Right. Like, you shouldn't marry the first group you meet. If it pinches, take it off and find another pair. What brings the world into sharp focus for one person might give you a massive headache.
And Sinfield's advice gives you permission to be ruthless in your curation. She says to monitor your bodily and emotional response after a meeting. If it feels heavy, leave. Don't feel obligated to go back.
Yeah.
If you find a group of 50 people but you only connect with 2 of them, you can take those 2 friendships offline and never go back to the larger group. You extracted the value.
She essentially gives people permission to reject environments that don't serve them, which is something individuals who are used to masking their discomfort really struggle to do.
And her ultimate piece of advice is probably the most empowering. If the right group doesn't exist, start your own.
And the sources gave this incredible specific example of this from a woman named Bonnie Hutchinson, who left a comment detailing her own methodology.
Right. She couldn't find the right dynamic, so she built it.
Exactly. A strictly controlled group. She capped it at exactly 6 people and enforced a rigid 90-minute limit. And the structure was non-negotiable. It was a 2-minute check-in per person, reading an inspiring quote, a period of deep breathing, and then the core activity practicing deep listening without giving advice.
That final rule is the linchpin of why her model is so revolutionary.
It's amazing, but it actively fights against human nature. When we see someone struggling, our immediate instinct is to fix it. We want to say, oh, you keep losing your keys. Have you tried a planner? Have you tried mindfulness?
Right, we want to solve it.
Why is a strict no advice rule so therapeutic?
To understand that, you have to look at the lifetime trajectory of someone with ADHD. They spend their entire lives receiving a relentless barrage of unsolicited advice on how to be normal.
From everyone.
Elementary school teachers, frustrated parents, managers, partners. Just focus more, try harder, make a list, set an alarm.
Yeah.
It is deeply patronizing because it assumes the person simply hasn't thought of trying a planner, rather than acknowledging an actual neurological barrier.
So every piece of advice just feels like a reminder of their failure to function in a neurotypical way.
Exactly. Bonnie's method strips all of that away, creating a space where an individual can speak their unvarnished truth, express absolute frustration, and simply be heard without being instantly corrected or managed or fixed. It provides profound emotional validation.
The silent, focused attention of peers who genuinely understand is infinitely more powerful than any productivity hack.
It's the difference between trying to solve a person and simply witnessing them.
And as the platform Think ADHD points out, the way you experience this witnessing can vary based on the medium. Online groups offer that convenience and protective anonymity. But an in-person group, if you have the capacity for it, provides this physical grounding and deeper personal bonds that text just can't replicate.
It really comes down to matching the specific intervention to your current capacity and need.
So what does this entire landscape mean for you listening right now? We started by looking at a broken medical system and a terrifying 10-year waiting list. But we've uncovered a highly sophisticated grassroots response.
You really have.
We've explored the friction-reducing power of hyperlocal Facebook groups, the psychological reclamation of helping others, and the magic of a 90-minute meeting built on deep listening. Whether you're navigating neurodivergence yourself, suspecting you might be, or simply wanting to show up better for someone in your life, the takeaway is deeply empowering.
Right, you do not need a medical degree or a prescription pad to offer the kind of unjudging deep listening that makes these groups life-saving. The community itself is the intervention.
It reframes the entire concept of healthcare.
And it leaves us with a critical structural question to consider. The NHS task force is currently scrambling to find bureaucratic ways to clear a 10-year backlog, repair a legacy system. But what if the ultimate solution isn't just rushing to hire more psychiatrists to clear a list?
What if it's bigger than that?
What if the future of public health care involves formally recognizing, actively funding, and medically integrating these grassroots peer-led communities as official first responders in the mental health landscape? Something for you to mull over. What if, for many navigating this modern crisis, the most powerful prescription of the future is a community rather than just a pill?
I think that's a brilliant place to land. Because if you are stuck in that chaotic airport terminal we talked about, sitting on your luggage with no flights on the board for the next decade, maybe the most productive thing you can do isn't to just keep staring at the empty help desk. Maybe the most powerful thing you can do is turn to the person sitting on the floor next to you and say, "It's really terrifying being stuck here, isn't it?" And then just listen to their answer. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.